Today is Tuesday, May 9th. Deal or default? We'll explain the options being presented to the top lawmakers in Washington today. And the U.S. is sending more help to Ukraine. We'll tell you what's different about today's expected announcement. Plus, delayed travelers might soon be entitled to more compensation. Some Amazon customers are going from free delivery to discounted pickup. And the Hollywood writers' strike could be around for a while, putting even more TV shows in jeopardy. Those stories and more news to know today, coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Today, there's a high-stakes meeting on the schedule at the White House. For the first time, President Biden is meeting with Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and other congressional leaders about the debt ceiling. They'll go over their three options. One, they could strike a deal to raise the debt ceiling, which, if Republicans get their way, will be in exchange for some budget cuts. If Biden gets his way, there will be no strings attached. Two, they could agree to a stopgap measure to keep paying the nation's bills while negotiations continue. Or three, they could just let negotiations unravel, allowing the country to not meet its debt obligations for the first time in history. And that's an option that many finance experts warn would devastate the global economy, and one that both Biden and McCarthy have said they will not allow. Though for now, it's not clear what compromises they're both willing to make. And they're up against a June 1st deadline. To be continued. There are some new details now about that mass shooting at an outlet mall in Texas over the weekend. Investigators now say they're looking into the gunman's troubled past. For example, he was terminated by the Army for mental health reasons 3 months after he enlisted back in 2008. Authorities also uncovered some social media posts in which the suspect referred to himself as a white supremacist, expressed racist, anti-Semitic views, and referred to mass shootings as sport. The shooter wore military-style body armor and used an AR-15-style rifle before a police officer fired back and killed him. Unfortunately, the shooting at the mall in a Dallas suburb left 8 people dead still, including 3 young children. Thousands of people showed up at a church to mourn the victims this week, including some of the top lawmakers in Texas. And with that, there were also a lot of protesters. Many demanded gun control. But for now, the state's governor says that's not on the table, and the focus should be on mental health resources instead. Today, the U.S. is expected to announce another big military aid package for Ukraine. This one is said to be worth $1.2 billion. News outlets like the AP cite sources who say it will include air defense systems, drones, ammunition, and money for training, maintenance, and spare parts. This comes as Russia has been stepping up attacks with drones, rockets, and more. But the equipment won't be coming from the U.S. military stockpile like usual. This will be paid for through an initiative that lets the U.S. buy weapons specifically for Ukraine. Including this package, the U.S. has given Ukraine nearly $37 billion in military aid since Russia first invaded back in February of 2022. Well, speaking of Russia, it's celebrating Victory Day today. That's Russia's most important national holiday, commemorating the Soviet Union's part in defeating the Nazis in World War II. As usual, Russia will be holding a big parade in Red Square, and Russian President Putin will address the nation. But this year, there will likely be fewer soldiers and less military hardware, since a lot of Russia's resources are being used to invade Ukraine. Also this year, Ukraine's president is staking his nation's own claim to the holiday. President Zelensky says from now on, Ukrainians will celebrate Europe Day, commemorating the unity of all Europeans who destroyed Nazism, and who, according to Zelensky, will defeat Russian fascism as well. There are now more than 100 active wildfires burning in Western Canada. Dozens are considered out of control, and tens of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes. The fires are spreading in Alberta, which is one of the largest oil-producing regions in the world. And now the fires have shut down some oil and natural gas wells and pipeline systems that run into the U.S. Canadian natural gas exports to the U.S. fell to the lowest level in more than 2 years this week. Fires are also burning in the Canadian provinces of British Columbia and Saskatchewan. Firefighters from other parts of the country have flown in to help. And the Prime Minister says he'll also send in the military if it becomes necessary. A historic heatwave is bringing unprecedented temperatures to Southeast Asia. This week, Vietnam and Laos recorded their hottest temperatures ever. Some places topped 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Record-breaking heat has also been impacting Cambodia, Thailand, and parts of China. And in the Philippines, extreme temperatures have forced school closures. Forecasters say there should be some relief in the coming days, but that intense heat may be quick to come right back. April and May are typically the hottest months of the year in that part of the world, since temperatures rise before the annual monsoon season starts in the summer. More news is still coming up, but first, this episode is sponsored by Wondery's new podcast, Think Twice. Michael Jackson was one of the most influential pop stars of all time, but his legacy is tainted by accusations of sexual abuse. Since his death in 2009, the world has struggled with how Michael Jackson should be remembered. As an eccentric cultural icon, a global humanitarian, or a monster. In their new podcast, Think Twice, Michael Jackson, journalists Leon Neyfakh and Jay Smooth delve into the complicated and unresolved legacy of the King of Pop. Through dozens of original interviews with people who watched his story unfold up close, Think Twice reveals a new perspective on his artistry, his controversies, and how we should remember him. Follow Think Twice, Michael Jackson on Audible or the Amazon Music app. It turns out weather is not the reason for most flight cancellations anymore. A recent report from congressional investigators looked into an increase in canceled flights since travel has rebounded from the slowest times of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it found that increase is mostly because of factors the airlines have more control over, like maintenance issues or staffing shortages. And now the Biden administration is working on a new rule to force airlines to compensate passengers for those kinds of problems. President Biden and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announced the start of the rulemaking process yesterday. They say airlines should not only have to refund airfare as required now, but they should also have to foot the bill for meals, hotels, taxis, ride shares, and rebooking fees, as well as cash miles and travel vouchers when they're the ones to blame for a cancellation or delay. Some airlines reimburse passengers for those extras already, but not all do. And this change would make that mandatory. An industry trade group called Airlines for America responded by saying airlines don't want to cancel or delay flights, that they already do everything they can to make sure things stay on schedule, but that safety is still the top priority. And in the past, airlines have argued that if they're forced to offer customers more compensation beyond just ticket refunds, they'll end up having to reduce service or pass on higher costs to customers. So expect more pushback this time around as well. Banks are making some changes now that 3 of their competitors have failed in the last couple of months. A new Federal Reserve survey found about half have tightened their lending standards, and even more plan to later this year. They can do that in a few ways. For example, demanding higher credit scores, charging higher interest rates, or requiring more collateral. Some economists say these moves could deprive a lot of households and businesses of credit, which could help push the economy into a recession. But others say it's not clear exactly how much of an impact this will actually have, or when we might really see the effects of it all. On the positive side, the Fed chairman said the turmoil in the banking industry could slow the economy enough to help ease inflation as well, and that would mean the Fed might not have to raise interest rates quite as high as it would otherwise. But we'll see. The Fed's next decision comes next month. If you want to save money on your next Amazon order, you might think about being your own delivery driver. Reuters says the site has started offering certain customers $10 to pick up a purchase of $25 or more. Instead of having it shipped to your home address, you would use a pickup point at locations like Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh, or Kohl's stores. It's not clear how many customers have that option right now, but this comes as delivery-related costs go up for Amazon. Already, the online retailer has tried to get ahead of things by raising minimum order thresholds for free grocery delivery, encouraging customers to have all their packages delivered on the same day of the week, and hiking the price of its annual Prime subscription. If you're on Twitter, you might start seeing your follower count drop. CEO Elon Musk says the social media company is going to start getting rid of accounts that have not been active in recent years. Musk says this could free up some usernames for people who want to actively use them. Reports say Twitter has even at least considered selling highly sought-after usernames through online auctions, but no actual plan has been formally announced yet. Now, if you are one of those people who has an inactive account and you do want to keep your Twitter handle, all you have to do to stake your claim is log back in. With Hollywood writers and studios still struggling to find common ground, more TV shows are being put on hold. This week, production stopped on Apple TV's Severance and Loot, HBO's Hacks, Netflix's Stranger Things, and Showtime's Yellow Jackets, just to name a few of the popular ones. And the Writers' Union has promised to stay on strike as long as it takes to make a deal. The New York Times says studios are prepared to weather a strike for at least 100 days. Of course, if it does go that long, even more shows and movies will be impacted. Right now, both sides have insisted that the other needs to make the first move to restart talks. But as of this morning, none are scheduled. By the way, media companies also have contract renewal negotiations set with the Directors Guild this week. And like the writers, directors want more money, especially when it comes to royalties from streaming services. In the past, studios have said they're up for making deals that are beneficial to writers and directors, but only if they are also in the best interest of the industry long term. Stay tuned. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, I want to talk about our sponsor. There are several things I do on a regular basis to try and be a bit more sustainable in my everyday life, like drink out of only reusable bottles, bring bags to the grocery store, and be mindful of the food we buy to try and avoid wasting it. I also try and pay attention to where I buy my wardrobe. Rothy's makes it so easy because I know all of Rothy's shoes and bags are made with their signature thread, repurposed from single-use plastic bottles. Plus, because they're durable and machine washable, I can keep them in my closet longer. If you've been listening for a while, then you know I think Rothy's shoes are also very chic and very comfortable. I can throw them on for a fancy brunch or dinner, or just walk around the block or a quick errand. And no matter your specific style, Rothy's has dozens of options. I love the colors for spring especially too. So many vibrant, fun hues to choose from. Or just go with the classic colors of the best sellers, like a go-to shoe, the flat. For stylish and sustainable shoes, shop Rothy's, and you can get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. Today's trivia question is, which famous criminal wrote love songs while he was an inmate at Alcatraz? You can play along with us in our weekly roundup email that comes out each Friday. Simply sign up to get it at thenewsworthy.com/email or find the link in today's episode notes. As for last week's trivia question, what inspired the creation of Google Images? The answer is Jennifer Lopez's dress at the Grammys in the year 2000. J.Lo wore that green Versace gown with a neckline that went all the way down past her belly button. And at the time, other celebrities were mostly fully clothed. So J.Lo caused a huge stir on the red carpet. And Google executives say that dress was the most popular search query they had ever seen. But they had no way to make sure people got exactly what they were looking for on the site, actual pictures of the dress. So with that, Google Image Search was born. And now, 23 years later, when you search Jennifer Lopez 2000 Grammys, thousands of pictures come up. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back with another news roundup tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.